We're the normal folks like me. I just don't know where they're at. You know, I try to look at them, but hey, you know, I just can't find them. All I can say is, here, can you
It's an exaggeration to say that Venice Beach has a refugee problem, but large numbers of refugees from the 60s have washed up here, like so much driftwood.
All right, let me have a volunteer.
Attracted by the singular splendours of Los Angeles.
The name of the show is called Learning to Trust the White Man.
Here is the quirky, glitzy, hallucinogenic quality of a town whose manic energy is harnessed for the production of dreams.
I got them all over, every head, both heads. Stay out of jail.
What better place for the wizard of the psychedelic era to make his home? High above the fray in Beverly Hills, the 60s maddest scientist, Dr. Timothy Leary, whom Richard Nixon once called the most dangerous man in the world, is preparing to take his last trip.
Forward, join us. Get your wheelchair and join us. I'm going to. Well, yeah.
From all corners of the world, pilgrims are coming to bid him farewell.
I listen to you very carefully.
What do you say?
I said he listens to you very carefully.
Very carefully. Why?
Because you make sense.
He must know something I don't know.
Because you make sense.
Well, you make sense.
Yeah. This is a present from Cameron and me.
Thank you.
It's a very wonderful video without any words.
This is wonderful.
They come to make offerings to the high priest and then hang out in his living room.
Bodies will be coming out of the frame down this way probably, and their heads will be coming. Some will be sitting, reclining, lying, kind of in a mass of larval humans.
I don't think I'll be able to see him because I'm very sick, you know. But so tell him you can call me, so we'll talk on the phone and maybe go on from there.
The phone rings constantly with requests for meetings. The word is out that Timothy Leary is dying, that America is about to lose one of the icons of its pop culture.
Wait, no, first you have to shake it.
And he's got new acolytes from a generation that missed out on the 60s.
It gets a little crazy.
Trudy Truelove is the good doctor's personal assistant.
He does. He likes to have a lot of energy, a lot of different kinds of energy, a lot of different people around him. And also it's sort of like a salon in the sense that, you know, people come in and they discuss things. You know, writers and artists and filmmakers.
It's a playful scenario as much as a real scenario, a play on reality and not just a kind of the Grim Reaper kind of like thing about it, you know.
Here you'll find the young photographers and artists who helped revamp Leary's image.
Timothy is immortal in a lot of our hearts. I could say just myself, I was just drawn to a lot of what was created in the 60s and 70s.
He's always been a proponent of change and an advocate of the youth.
One of his main skills is riding the waves of social change, and he's right on the front of everything.
The 75-year-old doctor is intent on riding that wave to the end. That's not so surprising when you realise that he transformed himself 35 years ago from a middle-aged psychologist into a cultural revolutionary by promoting the widespread use of hallucinogenic drugs.
Throughout human history, men who have stumbled on a new form of energy have always been in trouble for one generation. The second generation comes along and accepts it and uses it. And I'm very aware of my pioneer status.
That new form of energy, LSD, was discovered by accident in 1948 by Professor Albert Hofmann at the Swiss Sandoz laboratories. It gradually made its way into the intellectual and artistic communities in major US cities, via sympathetic psychologists like Dr. John Beresford.
You can't explain the shift from the 50s mentality to the 60s mentality in any other way but the introduction of LSD into the social scene.
Fortified by nitrous oxide sucked from huge balloons, Dr. Leary softened us up for the interview he was about to do.
This is a balloon from Japan.
Yeah.
And once again, the Japanese are ahead of us on the hardware. Why can't America, which produced Barnum and Bailey, produce a balloon that compares with that?
First, he plucked from the wall his acid test diploma for efforts on behalf of LSD, a test he passed with flying colours.
While you wait.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
Here, I'm gonna leave the cigarettes right here, too.
Howard, look at this.
Right. This person, Dr. Timothy Leary, has fully earned this acid test diploma.
Hey, diploma.
Then he launched into reminiscences of his first experiments with psychedelic drugs.
100 million miles an hour is the RPMs, revelations per minute. That's a standard, classic psychedelic experience. A jumble, an overload, an acceleration of everything, all the file cards in your mind fluttering around. Yeah, it's standard.
The most dramatic moment in that session was when I had lost my social identities and they had all fallen away. And I said, well, at least I have my body. And then I looked down and there was the couch and there was no body on it. And my eyes were open now. As a psychologist, I would say, interesting hallucination, but that rings hollow when that's happening with your eyes open and there's no body. And that's when it gets frightening. And that's when the breakthrough came.
Dr. Richard Alpert was Leary's partner in the first LSD experiments at Harvard University in the early 1960s.
The university was a temple to the rational mind, and I had been hired as a high priest of that temple, or as a priest, and it was clear that what we were doing was overriding the analytic intellectual mind, and that was heresy, basically.
Psychology would now have to expand to include these incredible experiences.
Psychologists were naturally drawn to experiment with a drug that profoundly altered perceptions.
It'll pass if you don't focus on it. You'll go right through it.
Shut up and listen to music.
That's right.
But at Harvard, things started to get out of control. Hundreds of students competed to try the new drug that was being handed out by the nutty professor. The English writer Aldous Huxley, another devotee of hallucinogens, warned Leary to be more cautious.
He said, listen, you're not going to get away with it. I suspect you just got to keep behind the Harvard thing, and because if they find out what you're up to, they're going to come after you.
He knew exactly what was going to happen. He knew that he was going to bring down the wrath of the ages upon him.
Finally sacked from Harvard, Leary became even more radical. He moved his whole operation to the Millbrook mansion in upstate New York and began to preach that LSD was the answer to the ills of America.
Our aim, like the aims of any religious group just beginning, is to transform American society. I'm sure many of your viewers know that America today is an insane asylum.
At Millbrook, children as young as 9 were given the drug.
It's an altogether new thing, and you actually can have a religious experience, and it can be even more important than reading the Bible 6 times.
The kids who take LSD aren't going to fight your wars, middle-class, middle-aged, whiskey-drinking generals. They're not going to join your corporations, middle-class, middle-aged, whiskey-drinking corporation presidents.
This was the Timothy Leary, the high priest of LSD, who enraged straight America while claiming to speak for its children.
They gave me the good lines in the show. Turn on, tune in, strap on.
It wasn't long before the authorities struck back.
Now, more with the G-Man, G. Gordon Liddy.
And we're back here on Radio Free DC, the G. Gordon Liddy Show.
G. Gordon Liddy, the Watergate burglar, has become one of America's most popular talk radio stars. By a simple twist of fate, he was also the prosecutor who led the first drug raids on Millbrook. As it turns out, he and Leary became friends after they both spent time behind bars.
When he learned that he was terminally ill, one of the first things he did was to telephone me with the news. He called all his friends, and he said that it was an adventure for him, and he intended to make the most of it.
Oddly though, Gordon Liddy was the man who began the persecution of Timothy Leary.
He wasn't the Gordon Liddy at that time. He was another suit with sunglasses on and black shoes, tromping up the stairs.
Things went downhill fast as the 60s drew to a close. Twice arrested on marijuana charges, Leary was finally sentenced to 10 years jail. He had a brief renaissance when he broke out with the help of the Weather Underground and his wife Rosemary.
He went hand over a telephone wire across a fence, some distance, on a full moon night.
I think the government was quite upset. And I think that there was a lot of delight on the part of the hippies and the underground movement.
The Learys went into exile in Algeria with the leadership of the Black Panthers.
My plans are to work with the Black Panther Party for the overthrow of the American government.
You get caught up in a wave. You're surfing that wave.
In the end, the wave washed straight over him. Leary was lured to Afghanistan, where the CIA hijacked him back to the US and prison. It took him 3 long years to talk his way out. And when he did, he embraced the brave new world of technology.
Staying on top of where we are going as humanity is how I think he stays fresh.
Throughout the 80s and the 90s, he's been, very, very active and vocal advocate for computers.
At about midday, the doctor's household slowly comes back to life. And back online. Camilla Grace lives in Timothy Leary's garage. She and her partners are building Dr. Leary's home site on the World Wide Web of the internet.
Are we going to network Tim's computer here pretty soon?
I don't think so. I think the idea was that we were going to pull everything off of Tim's computer.
Since the early 1980s, Leary has been promoting cyber culture and repackaging his old messages for the computer generation.
Think for yourself. Question authority. Think with your friends. Create new realities.
That's another beautiful thing about the web and the internet is there's no laws. It's very anarchistic.
Chris Graves is the webmaster. He's creating a virtual Timothy Leary.
The first thing we see is a picture of Tim. You click on the front door, he opens it, and he's standing there in the living room, and he says, "Hello, welcome to my home."
Meanwhile, the mortal version of the Good Doctor is driving the project. At the same time, though, he's been orchestrating his death, the final act of which has been pure black comedy.
This is the place where Tim, totally to his knowledge, is going to have his head taken off,
Well, this is where they begin the freezing process.
Who else would be able to laugh at this,
I know. It's something to offend everybody.
Dean Chamberlain is working on perhaps his final portrait of Timothy Leary. It's to be in front of the cryonic machine where Leary was planning to be dismembered at the moment of death.
It's a cryonics tank. It's the height of science fiction come to life. Tim, when he passes away, will be placed inside this tank with 300 pounds of ice scattered underneath him.
At which point they attach a large pump to your chest to keep the oxygen circulating to the brain. Then they do a double bypass surgery.
And when his body temperature goes down to a certain degree, and as far as I understand it, they will take his head off and freeze it and take it away.
Well, he says it's the second stupidest thing you can do. The first one is being eaten by worms.
Irish prankster may just be having his last joke on the world. But whether he rests in peace or in pieces, one thing is for sure. Dr. Leary's had one hell of a trip.
Oh, I think Timothy has made his statement of this incarnation. I think it's fine for him to leave.
Yes. Yeah. Chaos. Chaos.